Mikey.
It is being recorded, so.
Okay. So at this time, I'll call the board meeting.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
You guys may do a roll call.
Manager Kramer? Yep. Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
Here.
Manager Hanson?
Aye.
Manager Bakken?
Here.
Manager Delger?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Here.
Chairman Pastorius?
Here. Thank you. Next item is the consent agenda. It's quite a few items in the minutes. Care to make a motion to pass it?
So. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3 is approval of agenda. Any changes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do not have any additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda at this time.
Okay. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item of business under administrator is a motion to approve personnel committee recommendations effective January 1st, 2022. So on November 30th of 2021, the personnel committee met. This would be Manager Delger, Manager Kramer, and Manager Hanson. There was discussion on the cost of living increase for the Shell Rock River Watershed District employees. We've reviewed the county and the city's COLA increases for 2022, with the county being at 3% increase and the city of Albert Lea being at a 2.5% increase. There was a motion by the managers to recommend a 3% cost of living adjustment for all district staff effective January 1st of 2022. This motion was seconded. We did have some discussion on the committee validated the increase given staff's production and the inflationary reasons right now in today's world. We also reviewed the impact of various costs of living adjustment rates on the administrative budget, which at 3% would increase the administrative budget $12,561.27. The administrative levy and local option sales tax for the fiscal year of 2021 were also discussed, and what the outlook was for 2022, which was all positive, and the vote was taken and it passed unanimously. It's a tough word to get out this morning. So the recommendation is for a motion from the Personnel Committee to recommend a 3% cost of living adjustment for all district employees effective January 1st of 2022.
motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Our merit reviews, they're separate from this, or how does that fit in?
Correct. Our merit reviews are I perform them in June. The board takes action on them in the meeting in July, and cost of living is always January 1st. So we discuss that usually December. Last year we did it later because of COVID and postponed meetings and stuff. So, yeah.
Any other discussion?
This does kind of follow what the county and the city also do. So it's not something that we've made up. It works good.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item B is a motion to approve the 2022 administrative levy and certify the administrative levy to the Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer. I did hand out two new sheets, just to give you guys a clearer picture of which ones we're looking at. So I highlighted on the administrative levy, if you can see at the top, it says administrative budget. And you'll see the administrative levy of 250,000. Again, our administrative levy has been the same since the district was formed in 2003. So again, no changes to the administrative levy at this time, but looking for a motion to certify that at 250 and forward that to the Freeborn County Auditor.
Motion,
So moved. I'll second it, Pazinski.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item C is a motion to approve the 2022 debt service levy and certify the debt service levy to the Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer. Now, the debt service levy is in our project budget. It's highlighted at the $178,625. Again, this is our debt service levy for our bond, and looking for a motion to certify that and record that with the Freeborn County Auditor.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item D is a motion to approve the 2022 liability insurance levy and certify the liability levy to the Freeborn County Auditor. This, if we go back to the administrative budget, is the line item B, liability insurance fund levy for $17,000. Again, this one is new. This was just allowed by the state. So we're looking at taking some relief off by funding our liability insurance that the district must have to take some of the weight off the rest of the admin budget. So looking for a motion to approve and to recommend that to the county auditor for $17,000.
So moved. Second, Pazinski.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item E is a motion to approve the 2022 administrative budget. This is the budget as whole. So we have a total budget with the general admin levy, along with the liability insurance levy, with all of our personnel expenses, travel, training, office expenses, professional service expenses, and a reserve of $30,000. We have a total administrative budget of $267,000. So looking for a motion to approve the administrative budget.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item F is a motion to approve the 2022 project fund budget. Again, this is the budget that has the bond levy. This also has the income from the local option sales tax, along with our carryover. This includes our expense line items of erosion and water control projects, our subwatershed projects, our dredging elements, our water monitoring, along with our reserves and total reserves. You will see, if you did compare this to the outlook forecast that we had for the summer when we looked and reviewed the budget, our carryover is a little bit smaller due to the fact that we haven't sold the country club property yet. So that money we did take out and of the carryover because it's not there yet. So that would be the only major change from what we reviewed earlier this year. So again, looking at a motion or for a motion to approve the Sherwood Watershed District's project budget for 2022.
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Hopefully this budget will get a lot bigger.
Yes, hopefully by about 8.45 million.
We all hope that.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G is a legislative update. Again, as most of the board managers know, some of you even attended. We met with both the bonding committee from the House and the Senate. We also, by Zoom, staff along with the CVB and the chamber and Judy met with the governor's bonding committee via Zoom on December 1st. So we've hit all three. We presented to all three bonding committees. Now, the governor's bonding committee was just one guy that sits on his staff for the bonding, but at least we got in front of somebody there. So we feel pretty good there. Again, it's our number one push this year up at the legislature. So working with Judy, right now we're working on support letters from, the locals, Alberta Anglers, Sportsman's Club, CVB, Chamber, Alida, Freeborn County, City of Albert Lee. Hopefully we'll have those letters by Wednesday and we'll send those up. And those will actually go to all three committees that we met with. So working pretty hard on that and getting that accomplished. So a lot of good feedback coming from both the people the legislature that were at the bonding committees. I think the Senate bonding committee was really good. They asked a lot of good questions and were pretty supportive. Same with the governor's office. That gentleman had quite a few questions that were good questions. And we've also had some feedback with MMB, which is sort of the bonding budgeting oversight committee. So that all went well. So any other questions on legislative update?
So what is the laws or rules here around Zoom? And they're obviously able to do this business during Zoom. So we are still fine to do it with the board. I mean, the reason I'm asking is I'm not going to be here in January, February.
So the way it sits right now, Gary, is you can still attend the meeting via Zoom, but at this time, because of the access allowed stuff, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. You can still attend by Zoom. If you are away, you just cannot vote.
Or count for quorum.
Or count for quorum.
Oh, wow.
So you can still
They
attend.
can't want it there.
So if you look at, and we can get that to our next, we'll talk about
Like
that.
our other Zoom meeting. They were-
Before, yes, because we had the emergency mandate from the governor, which allowed for that. But now that has been dropped. So we go back to the old rules now. So can still attend, just don't count as quorum and just your vote does not count.
It doesn't make any sense.
Can I interrupt?
Yep. Feel free.
If we go back to noticing your location, then you would be able to appear. Remember, so back
Oh.
before COVID hit, right? And if you're gonna be at another location, we can notice it as a public location for the meeting
48 hours. Okay.
ahead of the time. And then you would be able to attend and. be
So if I'm in
able to-
my office, you could notice my office.
Yeah, but you have to have public available to be able to come and attend at your location,
Ah, okay, which they won't.
right? Attend here.
Accessible ramp or something to get up into my living room now? No.
Get some signs to put at your door.
And that's an issue that Andy and I can keep a close eye on coming out of COVID. I suspect there'll be some changes to the statute, so we'll review and take a look. But as of now, we'd have to notice your location.
Okay,
Well, obviously, we don't need to do that unless you don't have a quorum or something comes up where you need it to be.
Correct.
So then we'll notify.
Yep. And we'll talk more about it in my next item because Maud is actually looking at this, trying to.
Why don't you go to your next item?
Perfect. Item H is a Maud update. So Maud had their annual conference. We had two delegates, Manager Kramer, Manager Belger, who attended on behalf of the Shell Rock River Watershed District. We had, so there you have your regional caucuses, which is, so there's three regions within the MOD organization. You have Region 1, which is Northern Minnesota, Western Minnesota, Region 2, which is Southern Minnesota rural, and then Region 3, which is the Metro watershed districts. We struggled with Region 2 to get quorum. They also have to elect another delegate to sit on the MOD board, which, from what I understand, no one was really fascinated to do. They didn't want to sit on that. However, I will say this. I think it's important right now. MOD is kind of at that state where they need people that are engaged. They need people that want to do a good job, not just sit on a watershed board. So if you do have the interest to be a delegate, I think it's important, especially at this time, just due to the MOD's going through some changeover with staff. I shouldn't say a lot of changeover. They just hired their first full-time administrator here 2.5 years ago. They never had a full-time administrator before then. They are also working on redoing their strategic plan. Also looking at redoing the personnel and board manager handbook, which I've been working on with a group from MAWA, which is the Minnesota Association of Watershed District Administrators. But I think it's an important time right now that we focus on some of these issues, a broad reach for all of MOD. To me, our local watershed districts are only as strong as our mother agency per se, as far as MOD's concerned. So again, if you're interested, just please let me know, and we'll see what we can do. But one of the things that was looked at, or is always looked at the annual meeting, is what they call resolution hearings to change laws, to change rules that are out there. There was, I believe, 7 of them that they looked at this year. But also note that they do keep the ones from past years on the books for 3 years until they sunset, and then they take those off. So the increase for the admin levy is still on the books, so they'll still keep pushing for that increase of the $250,000 for administrative levy for rural watershed districts. Remember, again, Metro doesn't fall under those same standards. So Gary, getting to the ones that we were just talking about, they did have a resolution to increase flexibility of the open meeting law. This did pass, and you can sort of see some of the things there, but one of the things that they're looking at is actually exactly what you said, is being able to meet at an outside location without posting it as open to the public, and to allow you to then qualify for quorum and for vote. So that's some of the stuff that MOD is looking at. That one did pass to increase that flexibility. I know there was some discussion on that one, is they wanted to set it for only a certain number of meetings because they didn't want somebody to be in Florida 12 months out of the year and not even be here to do watershed business. So that did pass. So, hopefully we will see some work being done at the Capitol this year on that one, and see if those rules will change. Some of the other resolutions that they looked at was SWCD capacity funding source. Mod supports SWCD capacity funds to come from counties and state general fund. Again, this really doesn't enter in too much with what we do, but it more focuses on basically the next resolution that was passed is the clean water funds for implementation. This goes to the implementation of the One Watershed, One plan. They don't believe that that money should be used for capacity funds. Capacity funds are more for wages and stuff like that. They believe the clean water fund should go towards projects. So these are just quick overviews. If you guys have questions later, please let me know.
One more comment.
Yep.
The laws are different for public boards. Is that I mean, because of COVID, Zoom pretty well changed a lot of boards. I'm on a Zoom board meeting tomorrow.
Yep.
And those laws that you recited do not apply to private business.
Correct.
Correct. We're dealing with the
So in other
open
words, the
meeting law.
government is behind a little bit on this.
Correct.
It takes time for government to change.
Even though we just went through, it's about 2 years of it, so.
Yep. The governor's emergency mandate pretty much nixed open meeting laws and gave the flexibility to do it by Zoom. Once those powers were relinquished, then it went back to the state's regular open meeting law. So, but we're trying to make some changes to make that a little bit more flexible for organizations. I think they've seen how well it works with the Zoom. And I think all entities have the technology and equipment now to do it, which was probably one of the things they were worried about before. And I think the third thing is they don't want people to take advantage, like I said, being in Florida 12 months out of the year and doing everything from Florida or, wherever, when you retire, like when Mike's in Hawaii for retirement and I don't know, that face.
I think keep going.
You're liking this?
I'm dreaming.
So yeah, I think we will see some changes there. And hopefully, it's good to know that MOD's going to be trying to push for some of those changes as well.
Okay.
So another one was resolution number 5, crop insurance to include crop loss within impoundment areas. This one passed. This right now at some time I could see affecting us, but right now where this is a big issue is in the Red River Valley. What was happening is farmers were willing to put their sugar beet fields and whatever other crops into impoundment areas so that when it flooded, they would take the brunt of it and relief or give some relief to lands further down. However, there was an issue that that insurance companies weren't going to cover their crop loss because it was an impoundment, even though they would add crop loss, even if the impoundment wasn't there. The impoundment just helped take relief off other farmers. So that was one of the big issues that all of MOD supported, Metro, Region 1, Region 2, and Region 3 for that crop loss impoundment area. So that one passed.
So when you say impoundment area, is that like a temporary?
Correct. So if
an
it's
easement that we buy or they buy or whoever buys, and then it floods and hopefully within a certain time it drains so that the crop doesn't get wet feed and we go on with life.
correct.
Okay, this is in case that doesn't happen.
Nope. This is so what this is, and maybe I can explain it a little bit better, Mike. So they have areas in the Red River Valley where they've actually taken the farm ground and actually just put dikes around it.
Yeah.
So it might not flood every year, but on the years it floods, with the areas that they have diked, it'll actually hold more water before it spills into others.
So the theory being it floods anyway, so we're
gonna
it would have been insured.
Before, but because it has a dike around it, now they're saying it's not.
Okay.
So
Well, yeah, okay.
So the other one, 60-day review required for state agencies on policy changes. This one also passed. The reason, and I'll give you a little background, watershed districts were having issues with Bowser. Bowser was making policy changes without notification to watershed districts, which we didn't feel right. If we want to make any changes, we have to give a review period. And they really weren't getting input from watershed districts around the state on these policy changes. So we want a legislative authority to ask Bowser for 60-day review for watershed districts for these policy changes. So that one passed. And then item 7 is the Metro WBIF approval for 103B plans only. This passed, and I'm not smart enough on 103B within the Metro to tell you exactly what this is. So I'm just going to leave that one as it is, because no, it does not apply to us. We follow 103D, Metro follows 103B. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair, unless there's any other questions.
All right, I have a couple of items. The first is the Pickerel Lake property update. In June, the board did take action to execute an option agreement for the Pickerel Lake property. This is alongside Sam's funded project. It is ground that is located east of Pickerel Lake. Just letting the board know that we did execute it. Now all title review and everything is being completed, so we're planning on closing on that property sometime in December here, hopefully. It's a 56 acres approximately, and it will be included in restoration plans for wetland restoration and native planting. So just wanted to let the board know that we will be closing on that, even though we executed the resolution in June. If there are no questions on that, I will move to B, which is project updates. I have 4 project updates. The first is the Owens Waterways. They were completed last month. This was part of the Bowser Targeted Watershed Grant. So this was the last project to be completed out of the Targeted Watershed. The closing timeline for that is December 31st. So we made it. So that is all going to be completed. It was a series of 3 different waterways that are going to be protecting the wetland restoration that we did. There was some aggressive gullies that were being formed, like 4 feet drop offs that were just eroding more sediment every rain event. So we did go in and get those fixed. D Cook was the contractor that was awarded the work, and they completed it. So that is one project update. The next is the Shell Rock River restoration projects between the AMA, the Aquatic Management Area, and the WPA down by Panicum. Minnesota Native Landscape was the contractor that was awarded the work. They have started. Majority of the work has been taking place down at the Panicum Prairie site. There was 2 banks that are getting worked on, the west side and the east side. They have completed the west side work, which includes tow-wood installation, which is basically taking root wads and putting them into the banks so that it takes the force of the erosion away. And then there's a series of soil lisps on top of that. So that work was completed, and they're going to be moving over to the east side of the river. They're hoping to be done with the Panicum Prairie portion by the end of the year and move up to the AMA site starting in January. So far work is going really good. Minnesota Native Landscapes is doing a great job, and we're excited to see that project go. So hopefully we'll have some pictures here coming up at some of the next board meetings to show you the before and afters. Another project update is the Miller.
I have a question for you. How come they stopped at the Panicum? Why did we stop there?
What do you mean stop there?
Well, you said it comes from by the dam and then goes all the way down to there. Is that right?
No, so we were working on areas along the Shell Rock River that were in DNR ownership that could use restoration, and so the areas that were identified were the AMA area, and then there's quite a bit of river, and then we're starting to work on the Panicum Prairie site because there was two bad areas on the Panicum Prairie site that the DNR owned that had bad erosion, so it was targeted as well to be included in the work. So it's 2 different project locations.
Yeah.
Where we're doing work. So the next project update is the Miller or an IC&E complex. We met with our engineer, which is ISG, and US Fish and Wildlife staff, because US Fish and Wildlife owns some of the property. We met with them to go over phase 2 of the wetland restoration. If you remember, phase 1 was doing all the private tile drain breaks and everything affecting the private tile. Now we're moving to the public tile system and what we can reroute and modify and relieve from the system. And so we are working with the engineers. We got a pretty good draft set. We staff met with them and we had some revisions and some changes. So they'll go back to the drawing board and do a few more final design changes. U.S. Fish and Wildlife was very appreciative of all the work that we're doing on that system. And we will be taking that to the Drainage Authority because we're going to have to go through the public hearing process. It's actually going to improve the public drainage system because we're going to be taking water off the system. So other farmers will benefit from having less water within the system itself. And we're going to be rerouting some of that water just to avoid U.S. Fish and Wildlife property altogether. So we have been working with the Drainage Authority and Jones Hagen Smith, which is the engineer that acts as the appointing engineer for the Drainage Authority. And so far they've been really pleased with all the work that's taking place. So that doesn't expire until 2023. So we do have time to get that project completed, but just with the Public Drainage Authority process and how much time that takes, it's always great to start that sooner rather than later. So, and that is also funded by Lessard Sams, that project will be. And then the next update I have, it's not really a project update, but a grant update is the phase 11 increase that we received in an allocation dollar amount due to the increased budget that they are forecasting. We did receive an increased allocation for our phase 11 proposal. Our original amount that we received funding for was $1,242,000. There was roughly, it's a 12-point-something% increase. I don't remember what it is exactly, but it allowed us to have an increase in the allocation amount of $161,000. So our total phase 11 allocation is now roughly about 1.4 million that we'll have to do projects. So we have a work plan that's due this Friday. So we'll be fitting that increase in to some projects. So those are the updates that I have.
Any other questions?
Sounds good.
Managers reports.
I have nothing from the city or the county.
As far as I know, the links thing hasn't had any meetings.
Managers items.
I'd just like to make a comment on attending mod, and every year I try and get to at least one session where the Shell Rock River watershed staff is presenting or having a project highlighted. And it's always very enlightening to see the projects that we do as presented to other watersheds and how much they can learn from it. So it's a testament to staff and Andy's leadership that the kinds of projects that we're doing, they're so interesting, they're so beneficial, kind of ahead of the curve. So our community is lucky to have this and all the benefits we're getting from your knowledge. So thank you. It's impressive.
Back when we were talking about the budget and so forth.
Yep.
I said that country club property is the reason. That used to be listed, it's no longer listed.
Correct. As of right now, it's not listed, no.
Okay, I would think it should be listed.
Correct. Right now, we are working with Jones Hagen Smith to update some of the infrastructure, not physically update it, but to verify it and check it so that we take some of the what ifs or maybes out of whoever wants to purchase it and
Make it more saleable.
make it more saleable, correct. And right now, that's almost complete. We have one more thing. We're gonna have Jensen Excavating go out and do some water tests and pressure tests to make sure the water lines that are out there are in good shape so that whoever buys it knows that they're in good shape and don't have to be redone. Again, to make it more saleable.
Last time we listed it, did it by motion to allow you and Mick to do it, right?
Yep.
Should we redo that now or again?
We will redo it, probably, I'm guessing I want to do it probably in January, once I get all this infrastructure stuff figured out and can give you guys more details on what we have. And then we will go to relisting it. If you remember also, the city and Alita have had some people that are interested in it as well. But again, their concern is this infrastructure that's there in place. If it is in good shape, it makes it way more valuable than if it's not.
If you got an interested party before you list it, you can omit them from the listing.
Has the city actually accepted the infrastructure?
I don't think so.
That's what we're working on right now.
They have never accepted it?
No,
Oh, wow.
nope.
Yeah, that can be kind of serious.
So if you remember, and Mike, this might have been before your time a little bit, but when we purchased it in 2012, we also had the infrastructure surveyed and inspected, cameraed, mandreled. And at that time, it all passed. The city said, yes, it looks good, but until a final plat is done, they cannot approve it.
So the street isn't even dedicated?
The side street is not dedicated. The main one is now. If you remember, we worked with St. John's
Okay.
and had that street asphalted and curb and gutter put in. So what we're working on right now, again, is to camera, mandrel, and pressure test all the stormwater, the city sewer, and the city water that's on site.
I get it. I just, yeah, I didn't know that the city hadn't accepted it. And that's pretty critical because the maintenance of it is the issue.
Yep. So once
I
we.
wouldn't buy it either. Okay.
So we're trying to verify that, getting all the information to the city, and working on preliminary plats, so we can get more of an approval from the city that everything is in good shape, which will make it more sellable for us. So,
And this time of year is not the best time to sell it very easy.
correct, yep.
However, you have a couple months before spring. Oh, yeah. To get this stuff done so that it is sellable.
Yes,
Planning is very simple, really.
And if you have interested parties, then you could omit them.
correct. So that's why I'm saying sometime January, February, I think we'll have the information we need to bring to parties. If the city and Alita, that party still says no, then we can then list it and go from there.
Mr. Mayor, one other item.
Go ahead.
It's been brought to my attention, we're talking about property. We were able to, our Glenville property, whatever you call it, we were able to get all the outbuildings sold or whatever, and then there's a house remaining in. So,
Yep, out of all of the items we did receive, we did not get a bid for the house. That was the only property left on the site. However, we have received someone who's, interested in the house and getting it out for bid. They just missed the timeline prior. Being we didn't receive the bid, I'm wondering if the board would be interested in opening that up for bid again or for quotes so that we could get a bid for the house property.
Is this person looking at moving the house?
Correct. So I did clarify it wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be on the property itself. They are interested in moving the house off of. I mean, we already went through the public process and notarized it, but again, we did not receive any quotes for the house during the open period.
So the way I plan on handling it is, as administrator, we can just republish that in the paper and do it, have another bid cycle for that. And then we'll just bring that back to the board if there is a request for it.
Is there an option to be able to put it out for bid now or allow the board to put it out for bid now?
I don't think I need it. I think I can just put it back up for bid, just because it didn't go through the first time.
It'd be nice to get that house off of there, because it may be the rest of the property a little more. After.
I believe we just got the call yesterday.
They've called a series of 3 times over the last 2 weeks, so I know they're fairly interested in it.
Otherwise, we have to pay to have it taken down, basically.
Correct.
Okay, so you got it.
Yep.
Any other items?
So all the other buildings are gone. I haven't been by there. All the rest of them are gone already, or?
So they are not gone. They are still standing. However, we have received payment for all of them and we have received our hold harmless agreement. So basically saying that if they're removing the structure, that they're not liable, and we're also not liable for anything that happens via like Mother Nature in the meantime. But they are allowed to go in and remove it, being that we have received all payment. They have until, I don't know the specific date, but I think it's the middle of next year to remove all buildings
June.
or access property from the site.
It's June or July, yep.
Any other questions? Or items? Next meeting is January 11th.
I do have one quick question I want to add. And another additional meeting is our One Watershed, One Plan meeting. The public hearing or the policy meeting was set for January 20th. If you remember, One Watershed, One Plan is currently out for public comment right now. And so we will be having a meeting on January 20th that the board is invited to attend. Those are comments that are received during that public
Where
hearing.
is that?
To be determined as of right now.
Adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas.